session. To those of you that don't know, I am Teacher Daryl. I'm a tutor here on Cambly. We're going to wait for a few more people to join us before we get started today. But please send us a message in the chat box. Tell us where you're from. Tell us your name. Tell us a hi so that we can say it back to you and know where you're from. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Again, while we wait for everybody to join, if you don't know what Cambly is, it's a great one-on-one teaching platform. It can be on the computer, it can be on your phone, and you can get lessons with teachers like me in whatever you need in English. It could be like we're doing today, English literature. It could be grammar. It could be business English, IELTS tests, anything you want, it's there. Stay tuned until the very end of today's lesson. I'm going to give you guys a promo code that you can use to get a nice discount. Ooh, I see some messages coming through. Let's take a look. We've got someone from Cambodia, someone from Lithuania, from Japan, from Brazil. Thank you guys for joining us. Keep the messages coming through, telling us where you're from and the hi. I'm going to get started to tell you what we're doing today. So today is our second lesson in English literature. To those of you that were with us last time, we looked a lot at characters that occur a lot in English literature. We talked a little bit about themes. We talked a little bit about analysis. So today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to go through more about how to actually analyze a story and what that actually means to analyze a story in terms of literature. And today we're going through story structure. So we're going through the beginning, the middle, the end, how a story how a story in classic literature, how the hero's journey usually goes. All right, so good stories usually follow a structure similar to this. What we're going to do is we're going to go through all the different steps, and we're going to use our friend Harry Potter to explain the steps as we go, because everyone is familiar with Harry, and we had very good luck with him last time. And then we're going to look at another classic story in English literature. It actually comes originally from French literature, and it's called The Count of Monte Cristo. A lot of you guys may be familiar with that. Ooh, I see a lot of other names coming through here from Pakistan. Someone's name is Matthew Matas. Nice to meet you. Someone else from Brazil, someone from Italy, from South Korea, someone from South Africa, Indonesia. Again, thank you so much for joining us here today. All right, let's get started. All right. Now, I'm going to go over a little bit of what we did in our other lesson about literature, just so that you guys know what we're doing in certain parts of the story. And the only thing I'm going to go over to start is the difference between a hero and a tragic hero. So remember, a hero in terms of a story doesn't mean it's the good guy. It just means it's the guy that usually does the right thing, and it's the guy that we are following through the story. And a traditional hero, from what we see a lot in books and stories and movies, it's usually the good guy who's versus the bad guy. But we also get a tragic hero. And remember, the tragic hero is the hero that has something inside, some emotion inside that he has always got, or some problem that he has that he doesn't grow out of. And it's that actually stops him from maybe becoming the best person he could be. So an example could be maybe someone is very angry, and throughout the story, he stays angry. And then at the end of the story, he's not able to, maybe get the woman that he loves because he's angry. He didn't get past the anger. So he's our hero because we followed him through the story, but he's a tragic hero, okay, because he wasn't able to grow out of that. Growth is a very important part of this structure, this hero's journey, or the traditional story structure of literature, of stories. We want to see people grow and get better because that helps us to know that it's possible to grow and get better. And because it's reflecting life, it's showing life, sometimes people don't grow. Sometimes people stay with that emotion inside, and that can teach us something as well. All right, so I want you to bear that in mind as we go through the story. Also, remember today is an interactive lesson. Now, what I want you guys to do as we are going through the different parts of the story, I want you to give me examples that you know from other stories, other movies, other things that you know of when this has happened in the story. And remember what we said last time, literature is not just books, all right? It's any story. So yes, a movie, a TV series even, they are also considered literature. All right, so if you know an example of one of these parts from one of those, I want you to send it. All right, and we're going to have some more interaction later after we've gone through a little bit of the story. All right, so let's talk about analysis. So analysis, when we talk about literature analysis, is asking why. Why did the author write this story? Why did the movie maker make this story? That's a very important part of analyzing, of understanding, why is this here? Why does it exist? All right. And the great thing about that is that it can be open to interpretation, which means he might think one thing, you might think another thing, he might think another thing, but it's all the same story and it's all what you got out of it. So that's another thing that I want you to do today. As we go through these stories, I want you to think, what can we learn? What can you learn from these stories or stories that you know? It could be something about people. What did we learn about people? People are good, people are bad, people can change, people can't change. Lots of things we can learn about people. What can we learn about society, about everybody? Is he saying that people are essentially good, people are essentially bad, people will fight for what they want? What are they saying about society? And what do they say about life? So that's a big one. So are we saying there's a meaning to life? Why are we here? What are we doing? So all of this is part of analyzing the story, understanding why it's here. What can we learn? Now, learn doesn't mean that it has to be a good thing that we're learning. So maybe we're learning that something bad, or maybe we're learning something sad or something tragic. So we can learn a lot from literature. It's not just good guys and bad guys. So as we go through these stories, I want you to think about that. What are we learning from Harry Potter? It's literature, it's stories. What are we learning from the Count of Monte Cristo? And I want you to send that through into our chat so that we can see what everyone is getting from these stories. Even if there's a special story that you love and it taught you something, that is analyzing literature. Please share it so that we all can understand these different viewpoints of literature. All right, so that's an important part of analyzing. And again, we can also ask the question, why did the characters make the decisions? So oftentimes, especially if we're looking at a tragic hero, why does he choose not to grow? What is stopping him from growing? So it's another part of analyzing literature. Why did these characters do what they do? And again, think about it in terms of our stories and stories that you know. All right, so that is an important part of analyzing. Now we're going to look at story structure. Now, we talked a little bit about this last time. We talked about what's called the hero's journey. Hero doesn't mean it's a guy only. Hero is a girl, guy, anything, right? So hero's journey, often called the monomyth. Mono means one. So we're saying this is the one myth. And this is actually from a author I spoke about in our other class, Joseph Campbell, who said that there is one big myth that almost every culture in the world uses when they tell a story. And it's got a lot of weight behind that. If you look at stories and cultures and all kinds of stories dating back thousands of years, they all tend to follow this similar one myth that we're going to look at today. Now, one thing I want you to think about during this hero's journey is growth and change. Remember what we said, a hero often is growing, he's changing, he's getting better. That's why we like the stories, because we want to see that happen. We want maybe to learn how we can do it ourselves. So growth and change are important because it's about us, the psychology of people, our psychology. So how can we grow and change, and what does it tell us about other people and how they grow and change when we look at the story? All right, so that's a lot that we have to think about. Let's start. Now, what we see here is there are 3 parts, a part 1, a part 2, and a part 3. Each one has these different little clouds, and these are the traditional steps in the hero's journey. And you will see these in all stories, even in sometimes if you watch like a television series. In one episode, you might see them cover all of these because it's part of story structure. So you can start to see it everywhere once you know that it exists. So we're going to use our friend Harry Potter as we tell this story. So the first part of the hero's journey is the known world. In other words, the hero is in the world that he knows. He is here in let's say a normal world before the adventure. So this one is easy. For Harry, the known world is when he is with his family, the Dursleys, right? We've all seen Harry Potter before or read the books, and we know at the beginning, it's not really good for him. He's treated badly. He's living in the house with his cousin and his aunt and uncle. It's not good. That's all he knows. That's all he understands. That is the known world. The next part of the hero's journey is the call to adventure. Call here means someone is inviting you. They're saying, come for the adventure. They may not actually be saying it. There may not be a person saying it, but something happens that starts the adventure. Now, in Harry Potter, this one is easy. The call to the adventure is his invitation to Hogwarts. So when he turns 11, he gets the envelope that comes through the chimney that it's time for him to go to the school to learn how to be a wizard. All right, so now he was in this known world, and now something is calling him to this completely new world. It's the call to adventure. And often what happens in the hero's journey is that there is refusal. Refusal is a fancy word for saying no. Often the hero doesn't want to go on the adventure. This is important. Why does the hero not want to go on this adventure? It's because the hero has not changed yet. Remember, the hero grows over the whole story. All right, so he doesn't grow here yet. He hasn't grown yet. He has to learn a lot of things before at the end he has changed. So often at the beginning, the hero doesn't want to do it. In Harry Potter, he doesn't believe at the beginning that this is a real world until he starts to see what is happening. And oftentimes you'll see in stories, the hero says, no, I don't want to do this. No, thanks. You do it without me. And there needs to be another reason given for him to go on the adventure, because he's happy in this known world, even if it's not the best world. He's not ready for the adventure yet. So there is refusal. Obviously, Harry eventually gets the letter. He meets Hagrid, and he goes to start buying all his stuff. And then in the hero's journey, there is something called Meet the Mentor. A mentor is like a teacher. It's like someone that's going to give you a lot of information. It's going to help guide you and help you grow into whatever you're going to grow into. Now, with Harry, obviously, I think the mentor, the main mentor that he meets is Dumbledore, because Dumbledore knows a lot of stuff. He knows Harry. He helps Harry grow. He gives Harry little hints and little things to help him grow. And the mentor can be throughout the rest of the story. Sometimes the mentor dies, as Dumbledore does, but that's the point where he meets the mentor. He starts to learn all about this amazing new world. And then there is this part we see crossing over part 1 to part 2 called crossing the threshold. A threshold is just a dividing line between two places. So even a door, there's a door here, that is called the threshold. If I cross over the threshold, I'm going into the room. So here we're crossing over the threshold into the new world, into the adventure. All right, we know what happens with Harry. He goes to Hogwarts, he starts learning all the stuff. He's crossed over into this amazing new world. All right, now, part 2. So this part can be long or short. It depends on the story. Lots is going to happen here. We're not going to go through every single thing that Harry did, but we're going to talk about the basics of what is happening in the hero's journey. So obvious one is to meet new friends and new enemies. All right, so we know Harry meets Ron, he meets Hermione. There are lots of enemies like Draco and Crabbe and Goyle. He meets Luna. There's lots of people that he meets. All right, it's a lot of story in the books, in the movies. So he meets new friends and new enemies. And again, in another story, that's what's going to happen. You're going to meet new people along the road of adventure. Some are going to be good, some are going to be bad. There are going to be obstacles. Obstacle is something that's in your way, something you have to get over. All right, and usually the obstacle is stopping you getting, we discussed it before, we called it the MacGuffin. The MacGuffin is the thing that you want. Often in stories, there is a magical thing. It could be a treasure map. It could be an actual magical device. It could be the girl in a romantic comedy. It could be world peace, if it's like a war movie. There's a thing that you want to achieve, the thing that the hero wants. We call it a MacGuffin in modern day. What they used to call it is the ultimate boon. Boon is a fancy word for treasure. A fancy word for treasure. So there are often obstacles that stop the hero getting the MacGuffin, getting the thing that he wants. And he has to keep trying different things as the story progresses to get there. There's going to be a lot of learning along the way because remember, the hero is growing. The hero is growing. So he's going to learn lots of different things. Sometimes he may be down. Sometimes he'll be up. Sometimes he'll have failures. Sometimes success, just like people in life. And then two very interesting things that often happen in part 2. Remember, not every single one of these will happen in every story. All right. But you're going to see often this will happen. And often what happens is the character meets what is called the goddess or the temptress. So a goddess is obviously a very strong female who usually gives the hero important information, helps him go on his journey. All right, I want you guys to tell me in the chat, who do you think the goddess is in the Harry Potter series? All right, I think there are a lot of characters to choose from. So who do you think is the goddess that he meets in Harry Potter? Often also there is a temptress. A temptress is someone, doesn't have to necessarily be a woman, but it's someone that tries to take the hero away from what he's doing. He's growing, he's learning, and the temptress tries to take him away from that. So she may tempt him with other things, lots of different options that can happen there. So also tell me in the chat, do you think there is a temptress in Harry Potter? Is it happening? If so, give us the name. Also, often what happens in a story, there is some kind of battle with it's called the battle with the father or the battle with the brother. We're talking here about you're trying to become your own person. So if you're fighting your father, if it's a real physical fight, doesn't always happen in movies, or a mental fight or a fight that's metaphorical, somehow you're trying to become your own person. The hero is becoming his own person, or he's getting over something that happened in the past. So that is called the battle with the brother or the battle with the father. Sometimes it's not even a real person that they're fighting. It could be represented by a monster or by a big challenge that maybe it makes them think of their father or their brother. So again, I want you guys to tell me, in Harry Potter, where is this happening? Where is the battle with the brother, the battle with the father? Where is Harry kind of coming to grips with being his own person? Where is he getting over stuff that's happened in the past? Where is that happening in the stories? All right, so we see a lot happens in part 2. And then often, before we go to part 3, there is a death. Now, this is usually the death of the mentor. It's usually the death of the mentor. It doesn't have to be. It could just be a very low emotional state. I think we discussed it last time that if it's a romantic story, this is the part where the two people break up and now they have to find their way back together. So this is a low emotional point where someone dies sometimes, and that death forces the hero to be themselves. So now they don't have the mentor with them. All right, they don't have the mentor. They have to make the decisions themselves, again, becoming what they're going to become. And then we move on to part 3. Part 3 has the climax. Climax is a fancy word for end. So climax is not always the most interesting. It's the most exciting. And if you're watching a movie, that's where everyone's fighting and hitting and throwing people across the screen, and there's lots of explosions. That's the climax. You have to have the final fight. But what is more important is if the hero changes. So in this moment is the time when the hero can finally change. He's grown, he's learned what he's capable of. And now in this climax, in this moment, he has to decide, is he going to be this or is he going to be that? Is he going to be the good guy? Is he going to be courageous and brave, or is he going to be a coward? All right, so it's that moment when he makes that decision. That's what we're all waiting for in the story. That's why we've watched the whole story, to see that moment of change. And I love this word that they use for it. Such a big word, but it's a great word, apotheosis. And apotheosis actually means, it's the old version of the word is to become godlike. And all it means is you become bigger than you were. All right, so the character hopefully doesn't become a god, but becomes better. He grows into something that he wanted to grow into, the whole thing. And then finally, there is the road back. Now, often in movies, they don't focus too much on the road back, but it's an important part of literature, because now that the hero has grown, the hero has changed, he's gotten better. Now he must go back to the world that he was in, and he must be a different person in that world. So if we look at Harry, we could say in each book, he goes back at the end often to the Dursleys, but he's different because he learned something about himself. He learned maybe that he has friends that are there for him. He maybe learned a little bit more self-confidence. Whatever it is, he learned something. All right, he took it with him. At the end of the whole story, the road back is when we see at the end how everybody has grown up and they've become an adult and they have their own children that they're passing the knowledge on to. So that's the road back. When they take everything, take it back to the world they were in and carry on with that new knowledge. All right, so that is the hero's journey. We're going to go through it one more time. Then I want to look at all the chat. So we've got the known world, call to adventure. Someone's inviting you to come to the adventure. Usually you say, nope, I'm fine. And you have to be pulled into it. You meet your teacher, you meet your mentor, you cross the threshold, you go into the new world, you meet friends and enemies. You want this MacGuffin, this boon, this treasure, whatever it is. There are obstacles stopping you. You have to learn about stuff as you go. You are often guided by a goddess that's helping you, or you are stopped by a temptress that is, trying to get you away from everything. You often have to battle a family member, whether it is a physical battle or it's a mental battle, to become your own person, to get over stuff from the past. Then there is death, a low emotional moment, the final climax, when everyone's fighting, and then hopefully apotheosis, change. The person becomes better, bigger than they were, and then you go back to where you were, where you started, but as a different new person. All right, so there's a lot happening there. All right, now let's go to the chat, see what you guys have come up with. The question I asked was, who do we think is the goddess or the temptress in Harry Potter? Where is the battle with the brother or the father? And what can we learn from this kind of story or other stories that you know? So let's take a look. What do we have here? We have people from Bangladesh. We're going to get to Monte Cristo in a moment. I see Sounds of the Universe is talking about Monte Cristo. All right, so someone has said that Hermione is the goddess in Harry Potter. So I think that that's got some weight to it, or it could be true, because she helps Harry a lot. She knows a lot of things, and she's always giving Harry advice, and she makes a lot of the plans as well. All right, and I think I see another person saying that Professor McGonagall might be the goddess in Harry Potter, because again, she knows things. She's the female Dumbledore in a way, because she also helps Harry. She guides Harry, keeps him on the path. I don't think, and I don't see it here, that there is really a temptress in Harry Potter that is tempting him away from things. And what else do we have here? Yeah, someone else has said Hermione. Very, very good. And I would say that the battle with the brother or the father is actually representing when he battles with Voldemort, because that represents where his parents were taken away from him. That's the pain that he carries with him from the past. So by battling with Voldemort and eventually realizing that he's better than Voldemort, and Voldemort is kind of a sad character, and Harry realizes he's not that. That's his battle. It's a mental battle. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go through this with the Count of Monte Cristo. Now, the reason I've chosen the Count of Monte Cristo is because there have been lots of versions of this story. So the Count of Monte Cristo, we're going to go through the story very basically. But there have been some stories that have changed the original ending. And I want to show you that the character doesn't always have to be the hero that we know, like Harry Potter is. All right, so let's go through the Count of Monte Cristo. At the beginning, we meet a character called Edmund. And Edmund is a nice guy. He's a really, really nice guy. He's going to become a captain of a ship. We're talking about something that happened 200, 300 years ago. He is in love with the character called Mercedes, not the car. All right, he's just really a very nice guy. And that's the world that he lives in. That's his known world. He's going to be a captain of a ship. He's got a woman that he loves. Life is going to be great for him. All right. But there are people that don't like Edmund. And I'm going to list just a few names here. The one character that doesn't like him is actually a very close friend of his, or pretends to be his friend, a character called Ferdinand. And Ferdinand and at least 3 other people, they make a plot to get Edmund thrown in jail for a crime that he didn't do. So we're not going to go through all the different stories. I think you should read it or watch it. It's very good. And they get Edmund thrown in prison for 20 years, basically. All right. So this is all happening, jail for 20 years, at least 20 years. This is still in part 1. And here, the call to adventure is this plot. Because if that hadn't happened, Edmund is going to be living his life. So something has grabbed him. And obviously, he didn't want to go, because nobody wants to go to jail. They grabbed him, and this plot puts him in jail, and he didn't do it, and they put him in jail for 20 years. That's it. They leave him there. All right. And in jail, he meets an old prisoner called the Abbe Ferrara, and that is his meeting of the mentor. All right. And this guy teaches him everything. He's like the Dumbledore to Edmond, and he teaches him math, and he teaches him science, and he teaches him philosophy and how to think and how to figure out who betrayed him and how he landed in prison for 20 years. And eventually, and this is actually where we meet part two, they escape. Well, Edmond escapes. The Abbe dies. Remember, death sometimes happens. So the Abbe dies in prison, and Edmond finally escapes. They've been plotting their escape, and that is crossing the threshold. Now he's in this new world, because now he's been in there for 20 years, he's out, and there's a huge treasure that the Abbe knew about. And now Edmond is going to have the treasure, but that's not his boon. That's not what he wants. What he wants is revenge. So we see straight away that this is not a traditional story in that there's a good guy, there's a bad guy, and it's all like easy to understand. Edmond wants revenge on the people that threw him in jail, took away his life for 20 years. And now we're watching this tragic hero in a way, this anti-hero that wants revenge, but we kind of want to see him get it in a way because we know how bad it's been for him. So again, we can see that even though it's the same plot, it's a different kind of character. It's a different story. Now, we won't go through exactly what Edmond does, but one by one, he gets his revenge. So he takes revenge on the three people that helped to land him in jail. He ruins the one financially. He drives the other one crazy. He has the one person killed. There's a lot going on in the story, technically. We're not going to go into it. But every time, obviously, he enjoys this. He enjoys the revenge because he's doing to them what they did to him. But he also meets Mercedes. So here we have the goddess. So he meets the woman that he loves again. All right. And in a way, she is also a temptress because she recognizes him. She wants him to stop revenge. She wants him to go away from that and try to reconnect with her in a way. So she is the female goddess, but she's also a temptress because what he wants is revenge. So it's a very interesting way that they have told the story using the same basic things. Obviously, we have the battle with the brother or the father. Here, it's when he battles with Fernand. Okay. Eventually, he shows himself to this person that was his friend, and they have a fight, goes on for a bit in various different ways. So that's him trying to get over this past anger. And we finally come to the end. Now, this is why I've chosen the Count of Monte Cristo, because in the original story, Edmond doesn't get over this need for revenge. It's inside of him. He's the tragic hero. He doesn't get over it. And because of that, he kills Fernand, and he gets revenge on everybody that did everything bad to him, and he's rich, but he loses Mercedes. So he loses Mercedes. He also loses his son because this need for revenge was just too great for him. All right. And that can teach us a lot when we look at the analysis, when we think, well, is that good? He got the revenge, but at what cost? So we could talk a lot about that. Was it good for him to get the revenge, or should he have chosen another path? What could have happened there? So it's that kind of story that we can analyze and say, what can we learn as a society, as a person from that? And there have been some stories that have changed the ending. And this is why I like the Count of Monte Cristo. So there was a one that was very recent. It was a movie from 2002. And there, right at the end, so he wants revenge the whole time. It's the whole same story. But right at the end, before he's about to kill Fernand, again, Mercedes makes a plea for let's stop this. And he listens this time, also because his son is involved. And this time he changes. He has apotheosis. He becomes better. He gets over this need for revenge. He realizes that it's not worth it. This is just dragging him down. And he says to Fernand that he wants to end it. Let's just stop it, right? And it shows a completely different ending. And again, we can analyze, what does that mean? How did he grow? How can we grow from seeing that? Of course, if you haven't seen the movie, I suggest you see the movie so you can see how that one eventually ends and what happens to Fernand, et cetera, et cetera. But that's how we can take that ending and change it into various different things and different stories. And that's how we can take this different parts and we can change it to the different characters, a tragic hero, a anti-hero, the normal hero. All right? And let's see what you guys have come up with in the chat. All right, so someone has sent, this is Sueli Ishiyama, has said revenge is a dish best served cold. All right, that is a nice proverb. What it means, revenge is a dish best served cold, is that you shouldn't do it when you're like passionate and in the moment. You should wait. And then eventually it's much nicer when you say to them, look what I did to you. Remember what you did to me? This is what I'm doing now. So thank you for that. Do we have any other questions here? Oh, I see here. What is this? Someone has said, can the Temptress be Voldemort? I think that's an interesting interpretation. All right. So someone's asking, in the Harry Potter story, can the Temptress be Voldemort? And I think you could have a case for that. Remember, the Temptress doesn't need to be a woman, okay, even though the word Temptress is a female word. It's someone that's pulling him from the path. And yes, I think that at certain parts, Voldemort and even those Horcruxes that they're carrying that is making them feel bad, that's pulling them away from their journey of trying to stop Voldemort. So yes, I think that's a very good interpretation. And someone has asked, what are the other, give it another example of a hero's journey. So I would say another one that is easy to look at is The Lord of the Rings or Star Wars. Those are very, very well done hero's journeys when they go through basically all of these different parts. So if you guys are interested in that, go take a look. All right. So, and I would say if you guys want, go start reading or looking at movies in a different way. Now that you understand how the hero's journeys work, you understand how to analyze and think to yourself, what does it mean? Look at movies and stories in a different way. All right, we might do another one, another literature lesson in another state. You guys let us know if you want that in the chat or send us a message. And we're going to say thank you for joining us today. And like I said, I'm going to give you a code that you guys can use to get a nice discount. I'm not sure what the discount amount is, but go use the code Cambly Live, and you'll get some kind of very nice discount. Remember, Cambly is a great platform for one-on-one lessons with tutors just like me. I think if you want a lesson with me, you can check out the link below. And I think until we see you in another Cambly Live session, thank you so much for joining us. As someone has said, revenge can be bittersweet, and that's true. That's exactly what happened with Edmond. Bittersweet means it's good, but it's bad. So he got the revenge, but he lost Mercedes. All right, so thank you for that, Jeannie Bircher. All right, so thank you guys for joining us here today. We'll see you guys in another Cambly Live session. Bye for now.